cashless societies, Walmart's going up. We have leaders now getting raided by the FBI, which is a good thing. And now we're realizing what this did to people. The studies are coming out, just like we talked about. Today, we've had a lot of news drop, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. These four are just headlines. There's several more that we're going to discuss today. So let's talk about Walmart. Let's talk about the FBI. Let's talk about the dangers of what was placed in us, and then we'll discuss so much more. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up. It means the world to us, and we humbly ask that you do that if you like the content. Now let's jump into the stories of the day. First, let's discuss the FBI raid. Now, when this broke, I was actually one of the first people that kind of saw it come out around 5 to 6 this morning. Now, that being said, a lot has probably transpired since I filmed this video, but I do like the fact that you're starting to see the FBI go after insiders. Now, this being said, that doesn't hedge and take away from other things that they may have not went for so far. What I'm hoping to see is this is just a domino effect of busting people who are working and against America. This has nothing to do with working against Trump. Now, John Bolton did not like Trump. He worked for him, but John Bolton was an insider, a rhino. One that reminds me of a Bush or a establishment Republican. However, there's people like that still are serving. I mean, for instance, Alina Habba, who is Trump's attorney and now is appointed to New Jersey, her nomination's being held up by Chuck Grassley. He's like 152, and he's still serving as a Republican senator. Why is he holding up her nomination? So when I say this is a good thing, this is good that FBI is going after the insiders and maybe finding something that John Bolton shouldn't have been doing. I would love to see this happen to the other side as well, and I would love to see this be a little bit more of a, hey, I'm just telling you, don't poke the bear move for a lot of other insiders in Washington. I hope that we see a lot of more stories coming out like this where FBI raids into other places. Now, that being said, remember yesterday's story was Cash and Bongino may be on their way out. Bondi still hasn't arrested anyone. So I don't know if all these stories are starting to compound and then now all of a sudden you're starting to see them actually work because they know that the American people are watching. That's what I hope. I love to see that FBI is raiding John Bolton's home. Now, this is one person. Raiding doesn't mean anything. We have to bring people to justice and arrest. Did John Bolton do something wrong? I don't know. But we do know that Brennan, we do know that Clapper, we do know that Fauci, we do know that some of these others have done things wrong. Laura Logan's story on the Clinton Foundation. We know there was wrongdoings. The government should go after them just as much, and we should start seeing arrest. So I love to see FBI and what they're doing, but I don't want to ever give them the grace to say that this is it. This is what we wanted. No, I want to see them keep on pushing on. This is just a snowball that needs to keep rolling down the hill and get bigger and target people who were ultimately fighting against America. Now, that was not one of the big stories for the day, but I wanted to bring that up because by now there may be more stories out. But, you know, along with Trump's announcement today, along with Cash Bongino saying no one's above the law, these are good signs. Now let's see the next 3.5 years be filled with this exact same thing. If we want to cleanse Washington, we've got to actually start in Washington and start busting these people. Now, let's go to the stories that really matter. Now, Walmart. Why is it affecting you? Walmart came out and said their profits are down. They only made a few billion, not several billion. So therefore, they're going to use these tariffs and now let that pass to you as the consumer. Now, this is bogus. Please understand what I'm saying by this. The tariffs are not passing to you because the tariffs are costing Walmart a lot of money. The reason that we're seeing this, I think, is just Walmart wants to make more money for their bottom line. That is the goal for most public companies and their shareholders and their board of directors. It's meant to make their shareholders make money. So therefore, it's not an uncommon practice for people to go up on their pricing. Sadly, we're the ones affected by that. We're the ones that are affected by that. But to simply say it's blamed because of tariffs, I think that is a quip at Trump. That is not the reason they're going up. The prices hasn't went down under Biden. The prices hasn't went down under Bush. The prices hasn't went down under Obama. What I'm trying to say is the prices are still going up. I've yet to see anyone truly cut pricing on anything. It's amazing gas prices are down, so therefore freight and shipping should be down, so therefore the goods they're getting should be down, correct? You didn't get a drop in prices, did you? No. See, that's how this works. They use the news to their advantage to make you feel like they're not in fault when they go up on your pricing. So this Walmart alert, this Walmart issued this emergency that now they're going up on pricing. They're trying to find a place to blame it, but ultimately their goal is just to make money. Any and every company does this, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it justifiable. But what it is, it allows them to then take their opportunity to bash the other side or bash someone else, so then the blame goes put on someone else. Remember what they told us a few years back? This is a prime example. What did they say the reason that they were wanting to invest hundreds of billions of dollars of your taxes into solar and wind? It was to get clean energy, but to lower the price of fuel, to lower the price of energy, to lower the price on the subsidies, lower the price on all this, that your energy bill at your home, your gas bill will go down, everything will go down because of the supply and demand. Yet, under Obama and Biden, who was pushing the biggest of the green initiatives, the prices for fuel and energy went up. Now, I didn't hear all those people coming out and blaming Obama and Biden, but they still went up on their pricing. It didn't go down. So please understand, when Walmart says that, oh yes, we got to go up on pricing because we didn't make enough money, you're going to feel the tariffs. They're not saying you're actually going to feel the tariffs. What they're saying is we can blame it on the tariffs, but ultimately we're just going up on our price. Be wary of marketing and just the talking. A lot of times we hear things and I don't know if it's actually truth. So therefore do a little digging and realize that Walmart's still making hundreds of billions of dollars. It's just they want to have someone to blame, and if Trump is the easy target, they're going to blame him and make them look like they're coming out smelling like rose, like they've sacrificed so much and now it's time that we just have to go up on pricing. Don't let them lie to you. Now before we go to some of the other stories, I want to list the two massive wins that Trump's had this week. There was a story that came out that 4.5 million registered voters now have switched from the Democrat to the Republican Party. It says that since 2020, the Democrats have pretty much disappeared. Now, they still have their talking points. They still have their talking heads. They still have the news media. They still have so many people on their side when it comes to the yappers. But they said of likely voters, 4.5 million people swung to the Republican Party. Another big win. Listen to this. Trump just won his appealed case and conviction where he had the $500 million civil fraud penalty that Letitia James and Alvin Bragg and all of them brought against him, the lawfare, that the judge and all that. It was all the kind of the circus that went on. Well, the Court of Appeals just overturned that and said that Trump was in the right. The judicial branch of New York was in the wrong, the AG. Now, Tish James is already in a lot of her own issues, but this is a massive loss by her. This $500 million judgment now, to where Trump had to pay it and all the legal fees, now he just got all that back. It was a $500 million win for Trump. This is the same corrupted battle that they were trying to get him on things like the Mar-a-Lago. Listen to this. They were trying to say Mar-a-Lago was worth only a few $1 million. The land, there was a piece of land next to Mar-a-Lago, like right down the street. The land with nothing on it, just appraised for $200 million for this little piece of land that's smaller than Mar-a-Lago's land. So the judges and the Court of Appeals just basically said, look, I mean, there's no fraud in this. There's no lawsuit that New York can bring. All this stuff has just been lawfare against Trump. And they threw it out. A $500 million lawsuit that he was going to have to face is thrown out. So two massive wins for Trump. I think this was big news because I think you're starting to see some kind of normalcy come back to the judicial branch. Now, at the same time, they're going to keep on trying to fight that. But here's the sad thing. You know all these appointed positions that Trump is trying to get in? You know who's holding a lot of that up? The Republican senators. So if you really want less lawfare, you really want judges on the bench that actually care about the Constitution, you really want these appointed positions in the bureaucracy that really cares to dismantle the bureaucracy, then you need to get onto your Senate and Congress for not allowing these people to go through that Trump appointed, including Alina Habba. This is what's so important about this. The President of the United States has power. But sadly, we've allowed for the judicial and the Congress to have more power, and all they've done is made the bureaucracy and the lawfare bigger against conservatism and against freedom. If we really want Trump to have massive wins, we need to start by dismantling the judicial state and also the Congress, that's caused us so much problems. Remember, a lot of the spending, a lot of the regulation, it all comes from Congress. A lot of the holdups, it all comes from Congress. So yes, these two things are massive wins for Trump. But again, it's kind of like the FBI thing. If we want to see more massive wins, we got to start changing the style of leadership and also the way business is done in DC. Now, before we go to the bigger story dealing with this in the arms, a word from today's sponsor. If you wonder why scammers are always getting your phone number, why you have so much spam in your inbox, well, this is why. Your data has been compromised, meaning there's data brokers out there, and what they're doing is getting your information and turn around and selling it to maybe some salespeople, but maybe some bad players. The crazy thing is they do it without your consent. They give all your information to all these places, and it makes you vulnerable. And you know what? You actually can call hundreds of companies, thousands of companies, and tell them you don't want your information shared on the World Wide Web. But guess what? It's kind of hard and time consuming. That's why today's sponsor, Aura, is the game changer for you and your safety with your data online. Everything that we do is online now, so the last thing I want to do is try to go and find out who's got my information that shouldn't have it. That's why we recommend Aura. Aura does all the hard part. Aura goes in and they start taking your information automatically off and taking it away from some of the more compromised places, the vulnerable places. I kid you not. My inbox, my phone has been completely cleaned up, and I don't have to worry about all these crazy calls and all these insurance salesmen and all these apps tracking me all the time, because Aura is there to help. Aura also is so much more. Aura is all-in-one digital security. They do 5 things extremely well. They send you alerts if all of a sudden they find your personal information on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking apps, and also if your information has been compromised. 24/7 monitoring. This is the biggest, because I promise you, the people that are probably stealing your information, they're probably not doing it during the day era. What if it's through the night? 24/7 monitoring from Aura. A secure VPN, antivirus and password manager, and so much more. A US-based support available around the clock. So if something goes wrong, you can reach out to them and they're right there to help you. Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance. At night when I lock my doors before we go to bed, I don't want to lock just the front and leave the back open. Aura is all in one, so that way it's protecting you all online. If I sleep at night and I physically protect my home, what about making sure that I'm digitally protecting my information? Check with Aura today, aura.com/themacs. Get 14 days free by using that link. You want a peace of mind when you sleep? Aura can give you that. Aura.com/themacs. Check them out. Now the biggest story coming up, I want to kind of really talk about these 2 stories that just came out. First one says roughly 350 million people live in America. Only 250 million are Americans. We see about 100 million of illegals and visas and legal immigrants that we've allowed into this country. What they're saying is these liberal states are using this in their census to then build up their numbers to then vote for Democrats, because ultimately all these people coming over have been allowed by the Democrats more than they have the Republicans. So Trump is starting to stop a lot of that from happening. Charlie Kirk just said the press is flipping out because Trump administration has announced that it is reviewing all 55 million foreigners that have visas in America, and if they've committed crimes or have misconduct, they need to be removed. Of course, the panic sets in because without these voters, because they're part of the consensus, it's not about just the vote. It's about the fact that the census is counted with these people as part of it, so then therefore more House seats get put in. Therefore, more Democrats win the seats into the Congress. So that's what we don't realize. When we hear, well, illegals are meant to vote, most of the time they're not. But here's what they are able to do. They're able to get driver's license in some like liberal states, like very liberal states, like California don't have voter ID. So therefore, a lot of times they probably are voting. Here's the biggest thing though. When all these 55 million of visa holders and then the other 10 to 20 million of illegal immigrants that are here, then the people that we've given work granted passes to, they said it's equivalent to around 100 million. This 100 million gets counted into the census. Most of these people are going to the liberal states, so therefore their numbers are up. Therefore, they get more congressional voting and seats in the House of Representatives. Was that truly the House of Representatives when literally 1/4 to 1/5 of our American way is actually put in there by people who are not actually able to vote and who are absolutely not true American citizens? This is why we have to make sure that we're taking care of the immigration problem. Every one of these people should not have and should not be counted in any census. They should not be allowed to vote, and they should be vetted to the utmost. No free passes, no free lunches, no any benefits of our government. They need to be sent back, or they pay for their own selves. They do what Trump was talking about doing, saying, look, if you want to pass here, you have to pay a certain amount of money, and that certain amount of money does not get you actually access to being a citizen, but it gets you access to be here and to take part of the American dream for a bit. I think this should be no money, no census counting, no votes, and no benefit to any state that all these people come to. I'm sorry. So now that Trump is calling attention to it, again, phenomenal thing here. But people are going crazy because they want the census numbers to be high, so then they get the votes in Congress. There was a California congressman that actually said, if we're not allowed to census the illegal immigrants, which is about 25 to 30% of their state now, especially in places like Los Angeles, it said that it would actually take away from their congressional seats and their influence and impact in Washington. That might be the best news we hear all day. Now, last and biggest story of the day, and this is the one I really want to talk about the most. This is breaking. 8 studies have confirmed that the you-know-what shots increased infection risk. I want you to listen to this. This is so scary, and why Fauci is not arrested and anyone that was tied to this whole debacle. New study shows, and this was done with 1,745 healthcare workers, finds that the boosters raise risk of the flu, COVID, and other viruses by up to 70%. It is increased 50% on workday losses, meaning people have had to take off from work, which means ultimately it costs more because they had to cover, or someone had to cover, or someone had to pay, or the business just lost money for the day. 3 doses shows that 56% risk higher, meaning if they get 3 boosters, their flu, COVID, and other viruses are more susceptible to them. If they got 4 doses, it's a 70%. If you got the recent one, it's 32% over to where you're probably going to get the flu, COVID, or another virus. If your staff got 3 to 4 doses, meaning employees got 3 to 4 doses, he said that you would see your staff have about 50% workday loss, meaning you would see your staff that had 20, 10 of them would have sick days way more than what they would the year before. All because they chose to get this. The effect confirmed that this injection was a promoter of infection more than anything. What did I tell you yesterday about the protein, about the blood, the issue of the bioweapon? Listen to this. The workforce has decimated because of these shots. The new study shows that the increase of people using boosters made where people became, this is crazy, that 50% of the people that got them would have more disability or would end up with a shorter mortality rate and would end up losing days of work. 50% of people that took this will have a repercussion of what they took. Airline pilots are collapsing mid-flight. Employers are now using mandates because what they're doing is they're realizing the mandates they put in this was causing now a massive problem with their employees to where people are not able to work anymore. They said they've had more disability claims on their insurances and worker comp cases that were being tried to be filed against them for the mandates they put in to make people get this. It is absolutely a monster crisis, and yet no one, not one, has went to prison for it. It says the problem that we're facing, we were put into a predicament to where fear scared us enough to put poison in our bodies. I work with about 20 people. Could be complete coincidence. But of those 20, it's about 22, 23 people. Of those 22, 23 people, there's 2 younger, middle-aged people that are having some health issues. They're still working, but they've had to take more time off. Of my older staff, listen to this. I have about 8 older staff, I would see, considered seasoned staff that work alongside us. 5 of them have debilitating situations. 1 is passed, and only 2 of them are still working. Now, you could say, well, that's probably just age, Colby. Could be. But it's weird how all those were a little bit more able to take those and all the boosters to go along with it. And admittedly did. And now they're having problems. The younger ones having problems, have knee issues, have chronic sickness issues. Is this really what we wanted? And if this is the truth, and now that the truth is being exposed, why is people not going to jail? Everything from 2020 has changed. Your prices have went up, interest has went up, the markets fell out for a long time, which calls for more investment of the budget to basically take more of your money, more of your tax basis. We put more of us in debt. We actually got more security protocols, less freedom, and now we realize that all that was basically to put a bioweapon inside of us, to cause for mortality to go down, to cause for more sickness, 50% more sickness, 70% of people that got 4, and 60% of people who got the boosters will have some kind of debilitating problem. That should make us all extremely mad. My wife said yesterday, she says, sad that we have to risk the fact of if something happens to us and we go into the hospital and we need a blood transfusion, what's to say that we're getting pure blood again? She says, sad that we're talking about this in a first world country. It's true. It's all in the blood. We never thought that being a prepper would be worried about blood, but you better be figuring it out. There's a lady said yesterday, I thought it was really a bright idea. She said, if you know you're going in for surgery, you know you got something going on, you know you're having a baby. They said, why don't you learn to stockpile blood? Meaning go give blood, and there's places that will hold your blood. And I thought that was the craziest thing. But then when you start hearing these kind of stories about bioweapons, about the dangers of this in your blood, you're like, wow, that might be a good thing. It gives a whole different context of prepping, doesn't it? Guys, let me know your thoughts on today's video, from John Bolton to literally the blood. It's all in the blood. Now, one last thing I want to mention. A lot of colleges, including a big announcement came from University of Tennessee in Knoxville, the Volunteers. They said their stadium was going cashless. This has actually came out a lot lately with theme parks and movie theaters and colleges all going cashless. The movement to go cashless is meant to make it comfortable and easy for you. Think about what they told you in 2020 about getting this. It made life easier for you. You didn't have to fight the battles. It was going to be safe and effective. Cashless society, that push for convenience. The fact that now that your food is dangerous, push for convenience. Those convenient elements, once we wake up, a few years later, we realize that it was all about control. And I think that's what you're going to see with this cashless society, just like you're seeing with 2020. And yet, no one's been held accountable for it. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.